The phone woke me at 2:07 a.m. Not my alarm, not the soft chime I'd set for custody weekends. My father's name on the screen, white letters burning in the dark of my apartment. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken in 11 days, not since the argument about the kids, about Megan, about whether I was handling things. My father had opinions about my divorce the way he had opinions about everything. Loudly, with absolute certainty, and without invitation. But he never called at 2 a.m. Not once in 36 years. Don't pick up the kids. His voice was flat, not angry, not drunk. Flat in the way a man sounds when he's reading from a script he doesn't want to read. Stay in your apartment. Lock the door. Fill the bathtub with water. Don't turn on the television. Dad, what? Listen to me, Ethan. Don't go to the school. Don't go to Megan's. Don't get on the highway. I sat up in bed. The apartment was cold. January in Nashville. The radiator ticking its broken rhythm. You're scaring me. What's happening? There's something wrong with people. Sick people. It started yesterday in Memphis, and they can't stop it. The National Guard is already... He stopped. I heard my mother's voice in the background, urgent, muffled. Then my father again. Just stay inside. Promise me. I have the kids tomorrow. It's my Saturday. Ethan. His voice cracked. First time in my life. Don't. The line went dead. I sat there for maybe 90 seconds. The apartment was silent except for the radiator and the distant hum of I-40 through my single-pane window. My phone showed no missed alerts, no emergency notifications. I opened the news app. Nothing unusual on the front page. A Senate vote, a weather system moving through Arkansas, a college basketball score. I called my father back. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I called my mother's phone. Voicemail. Here's what you need to understand about me in that moment. I am not a capable man. I'm not a prepper. I'm not an engineer or a nurse or a soldier. I'm an assistant manager at a commercial flooring company. I live in a one-bedroom apartment off Dickerson Pike with a lease I can barely afford because family court decided Megan needed the house more than I did. I see my children, Sophie 8 and Connor, 5 every other weekend, alternating holidays, 2 weeks in summer. I'm the father who shows up with the booster seats already installed and a Ziploc bag of apple slices in the center console because I read somewhere that kids need routine. I am not the man you call with a warning. I am the man you'd assume wouldn't know what to do with one. My father was right about that, at least. I should have listened to him. I should have filled the bathtub and locked the door and waited. But he said the words, "Don't pick up the kids." And something in my chest caught fire, not bravery, not heroism, just the animal panic of a man who only gets to be a father 16 days a month and feels the title slipping further every time he signs another amended agreement. By 2:30 a.m., I was dressed. By 2:40, I was in my car. The school wouldn't open until 7 o'clock. Megan's house was 22 minutes away in Brentwood. The kids would be asleep. I'd be early. I'd be sitting in the driveway like I always was, 10 minutes before the agreed handoff time, because being early was the only power I had left in that arrangement. I pulled onto Dickerson Pike and headed south toward the interstate. The road was empty. January dark. Streetlights casting their orange pools on wet asphalt. A Waffle House glowed at the intersection of Trinity Lane. Normal. I merged onto I-40 West, 3 cars ahead of me, a semi in the right lane. Normal. Then I saw the first thing that wasn't normal. A Tennessee Highway Patrol cruiser parked sideways across the right shoulder, lights off. No officer visible inside. The driver's door stood open. Beyond it, in the grass slope leading down to a drainage ditch, a shape was moving. I passed at 70 miles per hour and couldn't resolve it, just motion, low to the ground, rhythmic. I told myself it was an officer helping someone who'd fallen. I kept driving. By the time I reached the I-440 split, the radio had changed. I'd been listening to nothing, just driving in silence. My father's voice still ringing, but I turned it on out of habit. Scanned through static. Found a station that was broadcasting, but not music. A man's voice, calm in that emergency broadcast way, reading a statement about a public health advisory for Shelby, Fayette, and Haywood counties. Memphis. That's what my father said. It started in Memphis. Memphis was 3 hours west. That was far away. That was someone else's problem. I took the 440 loop toward Brentwood. The highway was still quiet, but I noticed something. Every gas station I passed was lit but empty. No cars at the pumps. The Mapco on Nolensville Pike had its door propped open with a mop bucket. No one inside that I could see. I called Megan. It rang 6 times and went to voicemail. Her voicemail greeting, that voice I used to love, then hated, now felt nothing about, told me to leave a message. Meg, it's Ethan. I know it's early. I'm coming to get the kids now instead of 7. Something might be happening. Just call me back. I called again immediately. This time, it rang twice and cut off. She'd declined the call. That was so perfectly Megan that I almost laughed. 3 in the morning. The world may be ending. And she'd rather send me to voicemail than have a conversation. I'd bring this up in mediation if there was ever another mediation session. I exited onto Franklin Pike and wound through the dark streets of Brentwood. The houses here were large, set back from the road, lit by landscape lighting that made the lawns look like golf courses even in January. Megan's house, our house, once sat at the end of a cul-de-sac on Westbrook Drive. A colonial revival with black shutters and a 3-car garage that I'd made exactly 4 payments on before the separation. The lights were off. Both cars in the driveway, her Volvo and the Jeep she'd bought 6 months after I moved out. Nothing unusual. I parked on the street and sat there. It was 3:15 a.m. I couldn't knock on the door at 3:15 a.m. Even in an emergency, there were rules. The decree said 7 a.m. pickup. If I banged on the door now, she'd call her attorney. If I let myself in with the key, I still had the one she didn't know I'd kept that was breaking and entering under Tennessee law. Her attorney had made that very clear, so I sat in my car on the street outside my own children's bedrooms, and I waited, because the court system had made me a visitor in their lives, and visitors don't arrive unannounced. At 3:40 a.m., a man came running down the center of Westbrook Drive. He was in his underwear, no shoes, moving fast, but wrong. His arms weren't pumping the way a runner's arms pump. They hung at his sides like dead weight while his legs churned. He passed under a streetlight, and I saw his face. His mouth was open, not gasping, just open, wide. He ran past my car without looking at me, kept going, disappeared around the curve toward the main road. I sat very still. At 3:44 a.m., I heard a scream from somewhere behind the row of houses to my north. Short, cut off. I got out of the car. I walked up the driveway to Megan's front door, and I knocked. Loud. 3 hard knocks, then 3 more. Megan, it's Ethan. Wake up. Something's happening. Nothing. I pounded harder. Megan, open the door. A light came on upstairs. Connor's room. The small nightlight shaped like a rocket ship that I'd bought him for his 4th birthday. I could see its glow through the curtain. Then the hallway light. Then the porch light, blinding me. The door opened 4 inches, chain still on. Megan's face in the gap, hair messy, no makeup, wearing the old Vanderbilt t-shirt she'd slept in for a decade. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Something's happening. My dad called. There's sick people." "It's 3 in the morning, Ethan." "Megan, listen to me." "No, you listen. The pickup is at 7. Go sit in your car or go home. I'm calling the police if you don't leave." "I just watched a man run down your street in his underwear with his mouth hanging open like his jaw was broken. My father called and told me not to get on the highway. There's something on the radio about Memphis. Go home, Ethan." The door closed. The deadbolt turned. The porch light went off. I stood there, and I felt that old helplessness, the one the courtroom gave me, the one the lawyers charged $400 an hour to refine, and I wanted to put my fist through the sidelight glass. Instead, I went back to my car. I sat. I waited. I would wait until 7. I would follow the rules. The rules were all I had. At 4:20 a.m., the power went out on Westbrook Drive. Every landscape light, every porch lamp, every street light gone. The darkness was total. January clouds blocking the moon. I could see nothing beyond the glow of my phone screen. I turned on my headlights. The street appeared in the beams, empty. Normal, wet pavement reflecting white. But beyond the reach of the light, I could hear things. Footsteps, more than one person. Moving fast, that same wrong rhythm. My phone buzzed. Emergency alert. The screen filled with red text. "Shelter in place, ordered Davidson and Williamson counties. Do not travel. Do not open doors to unknown persons. Await further instructions." Then another. 10 seconds later. "This is not a test. Emergency services are suspended until further notice." I tried calling Megan. No answer. I tried my father. No answer. I tried 911. The line connected to silence. Not ringing, not busy, just an open line with nothing on the other end. I got out of the car again. The cold hit me immediately. I was wearing jeans and a fleece pullover, no jacket. I walked up the driveway. This time, I didn't knock. I rang the doorbell. I held it down. I rang it continuously for 30 seconds. No response. The power was out. The doorbell was dead. I pounded on the door. "Megan, get the kids. We have to go. Megan!" Nothing. I went around the side of the house. The gate to the backyard was locked. A latch I'd installed myself 3 years ago. I reached over, found it by muscle memory, flipped it open, walked through the dark backyard, past the swing set I'd built the summer before everything fell apart, to the sliding glass door off the kitchen. It was unlocked. I slid it open. The house was silent. I stepped inside, and the smell hit me something metallic and wrong. Not rot, fresher than rot. Like a butcher shop at the end of a long day. "Megan?" My phone flashlight swept the kitchen. Clean, normal. Sophie's homework on the counter, a worksheet about fractions, her careful handwriting in purple marker. I moved into the hallway. The smell grew stronger. I passed the family photos on the wall photos I wasn't in anymore. Replaced by Megan and the kids at the beach, at Disney, at some pumpkin patch I'd never seen. The master bedroom door was open. I will not describe what I found there. I will tell you only that Megan was gone, and that something had happened in that room that could not be survived. The window was broken inward. Glass on the carpet. The bed was no. I turned and I ran up the stairs. Connor's room first. The rocket nightlight was dead, no power, but I swept my phone across the space. Empty bed. Blankets thrown back. His stuffed elephant on the floor. Sophie's room. Same. Empty. Bed disturbed. Window intact. No blood. The children were gone. I searched every room, every closet, under every bed. The bathroom, the attic hatch, the basement stairs. I called their names until my voice cracked. I opened the garage. Megan's Volvo sat there, cold, untouched. They were gone. Both of them. Gone. Standing in the dark foyer of my former home, holding my phone like a torch in a cave, I tried to think. Sophie was smart. 8 years old and already the kind of girl who made plans. If something happened, if she heard something, she might run. She might take her brother and run. Where would she go? The school. The school was a 10-minute walk. Sophie walked there every morning. If she was scared, if she needed somewhere safe, she'd go to the place she knew. The place with adults and locked doors and routines. It was 4:50 a.m. The school wouldn't be open. But Sophie had a habit of going to the library entrance on the south side because that's where the before-school program met. She knew that door. She knew the teachers who stood there every morning. I ran back to my car, started the engine, pulled out of the cul-de-sac. My headlights caught a figure standing in someone's yard, a woman in a bathrobe, motionless, facing away from me. I didn't stop. I drove toward Lipscomb Elementary. The streets between Brentwood and the school were a distance of 1 mile. It took me 15 minutes to drive it because twice I had to reverse and find another route. The first time was on Granny White Pike. A minivan sat diagonally across both lanes, engine running, headlights on, driver's door open. In the beam of its headlights, 3 people were on the ground, tangled together in a way that made no anatomical sense, until I realized one of them was not moving voluntarily. The other 2 were pulling at the first one's arms with their teeth. I put my car in reverse so fast I nearly hit a mailbox. The second time was on Otter Creek Road. A school bus. A yellow school bus parked clean and straight, as if the driver had simply stopped mid-route. The emergency exit at the rear was hanging open. Small backpacks littered the road behind it like a trail. I didn't see anyone near it, but I could hear something from inside, a low, wet sound, rhythmic and constant, and I reversed again. I took the back way through a neighborhood I half remembered, past houses where some had lights from generators and others were dark and open. At 5:15 a.m., I pulled into the parking lot of Lipscomb Elementary School. The building was dark, locked. The parking lot held 3 cars, teachers' cars, maybe, or just people who'd parked there overnight. The library entrance on the south side was closed, no lights behind the glass. I got out and approached the doors, pulled the handle, locked. "Sophie," I called into the dark glass. "Connor, are you here?" Nothing. I walked the perimeter of the building, checking every entrance. The main doors locked. The gym entrance locked. The cafeteria loading dock locked. The playground gate at the back open, swinging slightly in the cold breeze. I went through the gate onto the playground. My phone light swept across the mulch, the swings, the climbing structure. Empty. Then I heard it. A small sound. A hiccup or a suppressed sob. Sophie. Under the slide. The covered section at the bottom where kids would pile up in warm weather. I pointed my light there and saw 2 faces staring back at me. Not my children. A girl, maybe 10. A boy, maybe 7. Siblings, same round face. Same dark eyes wide with terror. The girl had her arm around the boy and her other hand clamped over his mouth. "Hey," I said. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl shook her head fiercely. Not at me. At the situation. At everything. "Are you alone?" Where are your parents? The girl's voice came out in a whisper so faint I had to kneel to hear it. Something got into our house. Mom told us to run to the school. She said she'd come. She hasn't come. The boy squirmed under her hand. She pressed harder. How long have you been here? Since dark. She meant since the power went out. Maybe 45 minutes, maybe longer. What are your names? I'm Priya. This is Dev. I'm Ethan. I'm looking for my kids. They go to school here, Sophie and Connor Marsh. Have you seen them? She shook her head. I looked at these two children. Someone else's children, hiding under a slide in freezing January air. Their mother not coming. The world coming apart around them. And I thought, they are not mine. That was the first time the thought crossed my mind. The thought that would come to define every decision I made over the next 16 hours. They are not mine. My children are somewhere else. Every minute I spend here is a minute I'm not finding Sophie and Connor. But they were children, alone, under a slide. Come with me, I said. I have a car. It's warm. Priya didn't move. Mom said, wait here. I know, but it's not safe here. You can see that, right? She could see that. She was 10. She'd seen whatever came into their house. She knew. We'll leave a note, I said. In case your mom comes, we'll write where you are. This seemed to reach her in a way nothing else had. The logic of it. A note, a system, a rule to follow. I pulled a receipt from my pocket and a pen from my car. I wrote, Priya and Dev are with Ethan Marsh, silver Honda Accord, headed to find other kids. I wedged it into the bottom of the slide where it would be visible. The children followed me to my car. Dev hadn't spoken. His eyes were too large and too still. Priya held his hand and guided him into the back seat with a maternal efficiency that broke something in me. I started the engine. The heat came on. Dev immediately leaned against his sister and closed his eyes. I sat behind the wheel and tried to think. Sophie wasn't here. Connor wasn't here. Where else? Where else would an 8-year-old girl take her 5-year-old brother in the dark? My apartment. She knew the address. I'd made her memorize it. One of those paranoid custody parent things, making sure your kids know where you live in case something happens. But it was 20 minutes away by car, and she'd be on foot. She couldn't walk that far in the dark. A neighbor. The Pattersons next door. Judy Patterson watched the kids sometimes. Sophie liked her. The fire station on Franklin Road. Sophie had done a field trip there in 1st grade. She'd come home talking about how fire stations were always open, always safe. I put the car in gear. I drove to the Patterson house first. It was 3 minutes away, back on Westbrook Drive, 2 doors down from Megan's house. I parked on the street and told Priya to lock the doors behind me and not open them for anyone. How will I know it's you? She asked. I'll knock 3 times, then 2 times, I said. A pattern. Kids need patterns. The Patterson house was dark like every other house on the street. I knocked on the front door. No answer. I tried the handle locked. I went around back. Their kitchen door was open, swinging inward. I didn't go inside. The silence coming from that house was wrong. Not empty silence, but held silence. Waiting silence. I went back to the car. Knocked 3-2. Priya unlocked the door. Fire station next, Franklin Road. 7 minutes. I drove. The roads were still empty, but I could see more movement now. Figures on lawns, in driveways, some of them standing still. Some of them moving with that wrong gait. None of them reacted to my headlights. I kept my speed at 35, steady, trying not to attract attention by acceleration, or brake lights. The fire station was lit. Generator power. The bay doors were down, but light leaked from the edges. A fire truck sat in the side lot, just parked there, not inside the bay. 2 paramedic vehicles beside it. I pulled up and got out. Banged on the personnel door beside the bay. It opened immediately. A man in navy blue uniform pants and a white t-shirt. 40s, heavy, red-faced. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read, somewhere between relief and dread. "Are there children here?" I asked. 2 kids, a girl, 8, blonde hair, and a boy, 5, brown hair. "Come inside," he said. "Are they here?" "There are children here. Come inside." I turned back to the car. "I have 2 kids in my car. They're not mine. I found them at the school." The man's jaw tightened. "Bring them in." I got Priya and Dev. We went inside. The fire station was warm and smelled like coffee and stress sweat. The main bay area had been converted into something like a shelter, folding cots from somewhere, blankets, a folding table with water bottles and granola bars. 6 adults were inside. 4 firefighters and 2 civilians, a man in a business suit who looked catatonic, and a woman in scrubs who was methodically organizing medical supplies on a counter. And children. 5 children, sitting together on 2 cots pushed side by side. Ages ranging from maybe 4 to 12. None of them were Sophie. None of them were Connor. The fireman who'd opened the door, his name badge said Holt, watched me scan the faces. "They're not yours," he said. Not a question. "No." My voice came out thin. "Where did they come from?" "Found 2 wandering on Granny White. One was sitting on the steps of the Methodist church. 2 more were brought in by a woman who..." He stopped. "Their parents haven't come for them." 7 children, now 9 with Priya and Dev. 9 children whose parents were either dead or turned or trapped or running. And mine were still somewhere in the dark. "Have you heard anything?" I asked. "Radio, dispatch, anything about what's happening?" Holt walked me toward the back office, away from the kids. His voice dropped. "It's fast, whatever it is. Bites, scratches, infection takes anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, depending on the wound. The infected become violent. They don't die from what should kill them. Dispatch went dark at 0400. We're getting nothing from county or state. Last thing we heard was shelter in place and a military convoy heading east on I-40 from Fort Campbell." "East from Fort Campbell. That's toward Nashville." "Yeah." "My kids," I said. "They weren't at the school. They weren't at their mother's. I don't know where they are." Holt looked at me with the expression of a man who'd already heard this sentence tonight. From the man in the business suit, from the woman in scrubs, from the mother who'd brought in 2 children and then gone back out for her own and never returned. "Stay here," he said. "It's secure. When the sun comes up..." "No." I was already moving toward the door. "I have to find them." "Sir." His hand on my arm. Firm. "You go out there alone, in the dark. You won't find them. You'll just be another person who doesn't come back." I looked at the 9 children sitting on those cots. Priya was already among them, Dev on her lap, her hand on his hair. She'd folded herself into the group seamlessly. She was 10 years old, and she was already running triage. "When I find my kids," I said, "I'll bring them here." "The door locks at first light," Holt said. "If you're not back by then, we can't open it again." I checked my phone. 5:35 a.m. First light in Nashville in January was around 6:50. That gave me 75 minutes. I left. The hour that followed was the worst of my life. And I'd lived through a divorce that made me seriously consider whether my children would be better off without a father at all. That darkness was abstract. This was physical. I drove to every place I could think of. Megan's sister's house in Green Hills, no one answered. But the house was intact. No broken windows, no blood. The Starbucks on Hillsborough, where Megan sometimes took the kids on Saturday mornings, dark, locked, a body visible inside behind the counter. The park on Belmont, where Sophie had her birthday party, empty. Just the wind pushing the swings. At each stop, I lost time. At each stop, I found nothing. The sky was beginning to gray in the east. That pre-dawn mercury color that isn't yet light, but is the end of true dark. And with it, the streets were getting worse. More figures, more of them moving, fewer of them standing still. Some traveled in pairs now, some in loose groups of 3 or 4, shuffling in the same direction like they were following a sound only they could hear. I was on Woodmont Boulevard when I saw the woman. She was running, actually running, normal human running, arms pumping, breath heaving. She was maybe 30, wearing pajama pants and a coat thrown on unzipped. And she was sprinting down the sidewalk away from something I couldn't see. I slowed, rolled down the window. "Get in." She changed direction without hesitation, crossed the street, grabbed my door handle, threw herself into the passenger seat. "Go, go, go, go." I went. In the rearview mirror, I saw 2 figures emerge from between houses, that shambling speedwalk, that dead arm swinging. The woman was gasping, shaking. She pressed her hands flat against the dashboard like she needed to feel something solid. "Thank you. Oh God, thank you." "Are you hurt? Were you bitten?" No, I was in my house. They got in through the garage. I went out the upstairs window onto the roof and climbed down the trellis. "Are you alone?" She went quiet for a moment. Then, "Now I am." I didn't ask more. "I'm Ethan," I said. "I'm looking for my kids." "Dana." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "How old?" 8 and 5. They weren't at their mother's house. I've been searching for 2 hours. "Where's their mother?" I didn't answer. The answer was the master bedroom with the broken window, and the smell I would never forget. Dana looked at me. She understood. "The fire station on Franklin Road," I said. "There's a shelter there. Firefighters, kids. I can take you there." "How many kids?" 9 when I left. 9 kids without parents? "Some of them. I don't know. I didn't stay long enough to ask." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Take me there. But I'll go with you to look first. 2 sets of eyes." I glanced at her. She was calm now, or at least controlled. Something in her face said, "I lost mine too, not today before." The familiarity of a woman who knows what it means to not have the thing everyone assumes you have. 5 minutes, I said. "Then I'm taking you to the station." Where haven't you looked, I thought. "The Kroger on Green Hills. Sophie knows it. We get groceries there on my weekends. She knows it stays open all night." Diana nodded. "Go." The Kroger parking lot held about 20 cars, scattered randomly as if their drivers had parked in a hurry and not come back. The store itself was dark, no generator here, but the automatic doors were stuck open, one of them shattered. Glass scattered across the entrance mat like ice on a frozen puddle. I pulled up near the entrance, left the engine running. "Stay in the car." "No," Dana said, and got out with me. We approached the doors. Inside, my phone light revealed aisle after aisle of Normalcy cereal boxes, produce bins, a wet floor sign still standing in the middle of the bakery section. But things had been knocked over near the registers. A display of Valentine's candy, already in January, was toppled across the floor. And there was sound, not groaning, not the movie's nonsense, just irregular thumping from somewhere deep in the store. Something bumping into shelves, repeatedly, without purpose. "Sophie," I called. My voice echoed off the tile floor. "Connor!" The thumping stopped. Dana grabbed my arm. "Don't!" We stood motionless. 10 seconds. 20. Then the thumping resumed. Further away now, moving toward the back of the store. "They're not here," Dana whispered. She was right. My children wouldn't be hiding in a Kroger. Sophie was smart, but she was 8. She'd go somewhere she associated with safety. Home, school, the fire station. Someone she trusted. Someone she trusted. Her teacher, Mrs. Kimball. Sophie talked about Mrs. Kimball incessantly, how she let her read chapter books during free time, how she kept goldfish crackers in her desk for kids who forgot their snack. Sophie had been to Mrs. Kimball's house once for a class birthday party. She'd talked about it for a week, the house with the trampoline. I didn't know where Mrs. Kimball lived, but Sophie might. If Sophie was running, scared in the dark, looking for a safe adult, it might not be a place. It might be a person. But I didn't have an address for Mrs. Kimball. I had no way to find the school directory. Megan kept a printed copy on the refrigerator. The Lipscomb parent directory with every family's address and every teacher's contact information. It was in the house with the master bedrooms, the house where the smell was. I looked at my phone. 6:15 a.m. 35 minutes until first light, until Holt locked the fire station doors. "I need to go back to my ex-wife's house," I said. Dana didn't ask why. She just got in the car. The drive back to Westbrook Drive took 8 minutes. The streets were worse now, not crowded, but occupied. Figures on every block, some moving, some still. A few were feeding. I didn't look. I kept my eyes on the road and drove 25 miles an hour and tried not to exist too loudly. I parked in the driveway this time. Didn't care about rules anymore. The rules were dead in the master bedroom. "Stay here," I told Dana. "If I'm not back in 3 minutes, drive to the fire station. You know where it is?" "Franklin Road." "Yeah." I went inside through the kitchen door I'd left open. The smell was worse now, or maybe I'd just forgotten how bad it was. I went straight to the refrigerator. My phone light found the directory pinned with a magnet shaped like a ladybug. Connor had picked that magnet. I pulled the directory free. Flipped pages. Staff directory. K. Kimball, Rebecca. 4417 Otter Creek Road. Otter Creek Road, where the school bus was. I went back to the car. Dana was watching the street, tense, hands on the steering wheel, as if ready to drive even from the passenger side. "Otter Creek Road," I said. "The teacher's house." "That road had a bus on it. I saw it in your headlights earlier." "I know." I pulled out and headed east. We go around it. The detour added 5 minutes. 5 minutes I didn't have. By the time I turned onto Otter Creek from the south end, it was 6:32 a.m. The sky was lightening that gray, becoming purple, becoming the palest blue at the horizon. I could see without my headlights now. That should have been a comfort. It wasn't, because now I could see everything clearly. 4417 was a brick ranch with a chain-link fence, and yes, a trampoline in the backyard, just visible past the house. The front porch light was on, battery-powered, one of those solar units. The front door was closed. A car sat in the driveway. Everything looked intact. I got out and walked to the front door. Knocked hard. "Mrs. Kimball? Rebecca Kimball?" My name is Ethan Marsh. I'm Sophie Marsh's father. Please, if you're in there." The door opened. A woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. She had a baseball bat in one hand and an expression that said she'd been ready to use it. "Sophie's dad?" "Yes. Is she here? Is she?" "Come inside, quickly." I signaled to Dana. She sprinted from the car, and we both entered the house. Mrs. Kimball closed and locked the door, slid a bookshelf back in front of it, a barricade she'd clearly assembled in the last few hours. And there, on the living room couch, wrapped in a quilt with a mug of something warm in her hands, was Sophie. My daughter looked up at me, and her face crumbled, and she was off the couch and running, and I was on my knees, and she hit me full force, arms around my neck, face buried in my chest. And she was making a sound that wasn't crying, wasn't screaming, just this raw animal noise of relief. "Where's Connor?" I said into her hair. "Sophie, where's your brother?" She pulled back, her face. "I couldn't carry him, Daddy. I tried. He was too heavy and they were too fast." The next 60 seconds were the most important of my life, and I cannot tell you I handled them well. I shook her, not hard, not violently, but I gripped her shoulders and I said, Where did you leave him?" And my voice was not the voice of a gentle father. It was the voice of a man unraveling. Sophie was shaking under my hands. Mrs. Kimball put her hand on my arm, firm, teacherly, exactly the grip that stops a child from running in the hallways, and said, "Mr. Marsh, listen to her." I let go. I sat back on my heels. I breathed. "Tell me," I said. Sophie's words came in bursts, each one costing her something. She'd woken up to sounds from downstairs. She'd gone to get Connor. They'd gone out through the back door, the sliding glass door that was always unlocked because Megan never remembered to lock it. They'd run. Through the backyard, through the gap in the fence that led to the Pattersons' yard, and then onto the street. But Connor was barefoot. He'd refused to stop for shoes. And he was slow, 5 years old and scared and stumbling. Sophie had carried him piggyback for 2 blocks, but she was 8, and he was 45 pounds, and her arms gave out. "Where did you put him down?" I asked. "At the church." She pointed vaguely south. "The one with the blue door." He sat down and wouldn't get up. I told him to stay. I told him I'd come back with help. I ran here because Mrs. Kimball lives close, and I remembered where. "How long ago?" Sophie looked at Mrs. Kimball. The teacher said, "She arrived at approximately 4:30 a.m. 2 hours. Connor had been alone at a church with a blue door for 2 hours. I knew the church. All Saints Episcopal on Granny White Pike. 6 blocks from where we stood. I was already at the door, moving the bookshelf. "Mr. Marsh," Mrs. Kimball began. "I'm going to get my son." Dana stepped forward. "I'll stay with Sophie." I looked at this woman I'd known for 40 minutes. This stranger who'd climbed off a roof and into my car. She nodded at me, and in that nod was everything. "Go. I'll be here. She's safe with me." Mrs. Kimball handed me the baseball bat. "The blue door faces the parking lot, south side." I ran. The dawn was breaking fully now. Birds were starting insane as that was. Birds singing while the world ended, their brains too small to know the difference. The air was cold, and my breath plumed, and my sneakers slapped the sidewalk. And I ran faster than I'd run since high school track. The bat in my right hand, my phone in my left. 6 blocks. I counted. Past dark houses. Past a car idling in a driveway with no driver. Past a dog barking manically behind a fence. throwing itself at the wood over and over. Past a woman standing in her garden in a nightgown, holding a watering can, staring at nothing. She didn't turn when I passed. I didn't stop. 5 blocks, 4. At 3 blocks, I saw the church steeple. Gray stone, slate roof, and yes, the blue door on the south side, facing a small gravel parking lot. I slowed to a walk, caught my breath, looked around. The parking lot was empty. The blue door was closed. A bench sat against the wall near the door, one of those wooden memorial benches with a brass plaque. On the bench, curled into a ball the size of a large dog, was my son. He was asleep. His thumb in his mouth, a habit he'd broken a year ago, returned now under pressure. His bare feet were purple with cold, tucked under the hem of his pajama pants. His face was slack, peaceful, trusting. He'd stayed. Sophie said stay. He'd stayed. I gathered him up. He weighed nothing. He weighed everything. His eyes opened, unfocused, and he said, "Daddy?" in a voice that was barely a voice. And then he pressed his face into my neck and went back to sleep. I held the bat awkwardly in one hand and my son in the other, and I walked back to Mrs. Kimball's house. 6 blocks. I walked them slowly this time, because Connor was sleeping and because my legs were shaking too badly to run. Nothing bothered me. Nothing came near us. Maybe the dawn pushed them back. Maybe they were inside by then, in the houses, in the dark places. Or maybe whatever controls the universe decided that one small mercy was owed. I don't believe that. But I let myself feel it in the moment. When I reached Mrs. Kimball's house and knocked 3 times, then 2, the pattern already instinctive. Sophie opened the door, and when she saw Connor in my arms, she made that sound again, that relief sound. And she pressed herself against my leg, and we were all together in Mrs. Kimball's living room. And for 30 seconds, the world was not ending. 30 seconds. That's what we got. Then the reality reasserted itself. It was 7:20 a.m., past first light, past the deadline Holt had set. The fire station might already be locked, those 9 children sealed inside with the firefighters and whatever supplies they had. I'd told Holt I'd bring my kids there. But everything had shifted now. I had Sophie and Connor. I had Dana, a stranger who'd shown me grace in the worst moment of her life. I had Mrs. Kimball, a 60-year-old woman who'd sheltered my daughter with a baseball bat and a barricaded door, and who was now, clearly, my responsibility. We were in a brick ranch house on Otter Creek Road with no power, limited food, and whatever was outside getting bolder with each passing hour. We needed to move. We needed to get out of Brentwood, out of Nashville, somewhere with fewer people, which meant fewer infected. We should go to the fire station, Dana said. It might be locked, I said. Then we knock. He said he wouldn't open after first light. He will for kids. She might be right. Holt had been collecting children all night. 9 of them when I left. Maybe more by now. He wouldn't turn away 2 more. But I thought about that space. The bay with the cots, the limited water, the finite everything. Holt and 3 other firefighters, however many civilians had shown up, and a growing number of children without parents. That math didn't work. Not for a day, not for a week. Mrs. Kimball spoke from the kitchen where she was filling water bottles from the tap while it still worked. My sister has a farm, Liper's Fork, 30 minutes south in normal times. She has well water, chickens, fences. She's alone out there. Can you reach her? I asked. Phone's been dead since 4, but she'll be there. Dorothy doesn't leave that property. Leaper's Fork. I knew the area vaguely rural, horse country, the kind of place Nashville celebrities bought land for privacy. 30 minutes south meant getting through Franklin, which was a town, which meant people, which meant infected. How do we get there avoiding main roads? I asked. Mrs. Kimball drew an invisible map on the counter. Old Hillsborough Road south, past the Natchez Trace, left onto Old State Route 46. Her driveway is 3 miles past the general store. White mailbox with a rooster painted on it. I looked at my children. Sophie was alert, watchful, holding Connor's hand. Connor was awake now, sitting on the couch with his feet wrapped in dish towels Mrs. Kimball had fashioned into makeshift shoes. He hadn't spoken yet. Not a word since Daddy on the bench. "We go now," I said. "All of us. My car. It'll be tight, but we fit." Dana looked at me. "The fire station kids. What about them?" "There's 9 of them, maybe more. Their parents aren't coming." Holt is there. The firefighters. 4 guys in a building with no power and no supply chain. How long can they hold? I knew what she was asking. I knew what she was really asking. She was asking whether we would go get them, whether we would load 9 children, other people's children, into my car that fit 5, into this plan that was already desperate, into a future that was already uncertain. "We can't," I said. Dana held my gaze. She didn't argue. She didn't accuse. She just held it. And in her eyes, I saw the calculation she was making. "What kind of man is this?" "I'm the kind of man who has his own children back. I'm the kind of man who was given a miracle on a bench outside a church and is not going to gamble it. I'm the kind of man whose daughter carried her brother until her arms broke, and I will not ask more of her." "We can't fit them," I said. "We can tell Holt about the farm. Give him the address. He has the fire truck. He can load all of them and follow us or come later." Dana nodded slowly. "Okay. We stop at the station, give them the information, then we go." It was a compromise. It was reasonable. It was also the moment I chose my children over 9 others. And I knew it, and Dana knew it. And Sophie was watching me with those eyes that missed nothing. The fire station was 7 minutes from Mrs. Kimball's house. I drove slowly. The morning light revealed a landscape that was both familiar and utterly transformed. Brentwood looked like itself if you didn't look closely. The houses were still beautiful, the lawns still manicured. But front doors hung open. Cars sat at wrong angles. And on every 3rd or 4th block, something moved that shouldn't have been moving that way. Sophie sat behind me with Connor on her lap, her seatbelt stretched over both of them. Dana in the passenger seat. Mrs. Kimball behind Dana, clutching a tote bag she'd packed with water bottles, granola bars, a first aid kit, and a photo album she'd grabbed at the last second. I didn't question the photo album. When we pulled up to the fire station, the bay doors were still down. But the personnel door was different. It had been reinforced. Sheet metal bolted over the window and spray painted on the wall beside it in orange. "Children inside. Do not force entry." I knocked, pounded. "Holt, it's Ethan Marsh. I was here earlier. I found my kids." 40 seconds of silence. Then the door opened a crack. Holt's face, haggard, older than he'd looked 3 hours ago. "You made it." He saw Sophie and Connor. Something in his expression softened, then hardened again. "You're not staying." "No, I have a place, a farm in Leaper's Fork." I gave him the address, made him repeat it. "There's well water, fences, space. You should bring the kids there." "I have 14 children now," Holt said. 14. And 2 adults besides my crew. My truck carries 8 in the cab and maybe 10 in the back if I rip out the hose racks. Can you make 2 trips? I don't know if I can make 1. The roads. He stopped, looked past me at the street. Have you seen it? Franklin Road? I came from Otter Creek. Franklin's blocked. 4-car pileup at the intersection with Moore's Lane. And there's a crowd there. A big one. They're not moving. They're just standing. In the intersection. Maybe 30 of them. Just standing. 30. I'd only seen them alone or in groups of 3 or 4. Old Hillsborough Road, I said. South. Avoid Franklin entirely. Holt nodded. He looked at Sophie, at Connor's face buried in Sophie's neck. Your girl, she's tough. I know. I'll get these kids south. Today, I'll make it work. He reached out and gripped my forearm. That farm better be real. It's real. He closed the door. I heard the bolt slide home. I got in my car. Sophie was watching me through the rearview mirror. Daddy, those kids. The fireman is going to bring them to where we're going. He has a truck. Promise? I shouldn't have promised. I had no right to promise. I promise. We drove south. Old Hillsborough Road was 2 lanes, winding, tree-lined. Money properties set far back from the road behind stone walls and iron gates. It was the kind of road where people rode horses on the shoulder in September and where nothing bad was supposed to happen. For the first 10 minutes, it was clear, empty, almost peaceful. The sunrise was painting the clouds amber and pink, and the trees were bare and beautiful against it, and my hands were shaking on the wheel. Then we came around a curve and found a checkpoint. 2 pickup trucks parked nose to nose across the road. Men standing behind them with rifles. Not military, not police. Civilians, neighbors, probably. 3 of them, in hunting jackets and work boots, armed and alert. I stopped 50 feet back, rolled down my window. One of them approached. 50-something, gray beard, shotgun across his chest. He looked at me, then at the car full of people. His eyes went to the children in the back. Where are you headed? Leiper's Fork. We have family there. You bit? No. Any of them bit? No. He leaned down, looked into the car. Studied faces. Connor's dish towel feet. Sophie's pale, watchful expression. Dana still wearing pajama pants. Mrs. Kimball with her tote bag. You got a name in Leiper's Fork? Someone who'll vouch? Mrs. Kimball leaned forward. Dorothy Kimball. She's my sister. White House on Old State Route 46, 3 miles past the general store. Rooster on the mailbox. The man's expression shifted. Dorothy. Yeah, I know Dorothy. He straightened up, whistled to the others. They pulled 1 truck aside, leaving just enough room for my car to squeeze through. Road's clear to the trace, he said. Past the trace, I can't say. We haven't been down there. Stay on the pavement, don't take any dirt roads. And if you see a group, don't slow down. You understand? I understand. Good luck to those kids. We drove through. Behind us, the trucks closed the gap again. Past the Natchez Trace Parkway crossing, the landscape opened up. Rolling hills, horse fences, dead grass waiting for spring. No houses visible from the road. No people. No movement at all. It felt like driving off the edge of the world. Like Nashville and its horrors existed in a bubble behind us, and we were crossing into somewhere untouched. I knew that was wrong. I knew this thing had started in Memphis and moved east, and that meant it could be here too. That maybe it was already here, in the farmhouses set back behind the hills, in the barns and the sheds. But the road was empty, and the sun was up, and my children were breathing in the back seat, and I let myself believe, just for these minutes, that the road led somewhere safe. Sophie said, "Daddy." "Yeah, baby." "Is Mom coming?" The road blurred. I blinked hard, gripped the wheel. "Not right now, sweetheart." "When?" I couldn't answer. Dana reached across the center console and put her hand on my forearm. Brief. A pressure that said, "Not now. You can't right now." "Let's get to the farm first," I said. "We'll figure everything else out after." Sophie was quiet. She knew. 8 years old, and she already knew. She'd known since she saw the master bedroom window broken from outside, since she heard the sounds and grabbed her brother and ran. She knew, and she was waiting for me to say it, and I couldn't say it. "Okay, Daddy," she said. Connor was asleep again. His bare feet, still wrapped in dish towels, rested on Sophie's lap. She held them gently, warming them with her hands. The white mailbox with the rooster appeared at 8:15 a.m. I turned onto a gravel driveway that wound uphill between two pasture fences, past a pond with a thin skin of ice, past a barn that was old but standing, and up to a farmhouse that looked exactly like what it was. A woman's life built over decades in one place. White clapboard, green roof, a wraparound porch with rocking chairs, smoke coming from the chimney. Someone was home, and they had heat. I parked and we sat for a moment. Nobody moved. Then the front door opened, and a woman stepped onto the porch. She was 70, maybe. Small, wiry, white hair cut short and practical. She wore rubber boots and a quilted vest, and she held a rifle the way people hold things they've held for 40 years loosely, instinctively. Mrs. Kimball got out of the car. "Dorothy." The older woman set the rifle against the porch railing and came down the steps. The sisters embraced without drama, a tight, brief hug, then pulling back to look at each other. "I couldn't call," Mrs. Kimball said. "Phones are down." "I know. Radio's been talking since midnight. Memphis, then Jackson, then Nashville." Dorothy looked past her sister at the rest of us emerging from the car. Her eyes settled on the children. "Lord." "This is Ethan Marsh, one of my students' fathers. His children, Sophie and Connor. And Donna, Mrs." Kimball looked at Dana, realizing she didn't know her last name. "Dana Okafor," Dana said. Dorothy assessed us with the efficiency of a woman who'd lived alone on working land for a long time. "Are any of you sick? Hurt? Bitten?" "No." "When's the last time any of you ate?" None of us answered. We hadn't. Not since before 2 a.m. for me. Probably longer for the others. "Come inside," Dorothy said. "I've got eggs, and I've got coffee, and I've got questions, but the food comes first." We went inside. The farmhouse was warm wood stove in the main room, banked and glowing. The kitchen was large, clean, functional. Dorothy moved through it with the assurance of routine, cracking eggs into a cast-iron skillet, pouring coffee from a percolator on the stove. Connor woke fully for the first time since the church bench. He looked around the kitchen with wide eyes, then at me, then at Sophie. He pointed at the window over the sink, which showed the pasture and the barn, and beyond them, hills rolling into the gray morning. "Daddy," he said. His first real sentence since I'd found him. "Are we somewhere safe?" I looked at this room, at Dorothy's rifle by the door, at the miles of open, indefensible land between us and everything, at the gravel driveway that anything could walk up. This wasn't a bunker. This wasn't a sealed room. This was a farmhouse with windows and doors and a 70-year-old woman and a bag of groceries. "We're somewhere better," I said. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't the truth. It was what I had. By noon, we'd done what we could with what was there. Dorothy's farm was 40 acres, most of it open pasture for horses she no longer kept. Bordered on 3 sides by dense cedar forest, and on the 4th by the gravel road. The house had well water powered by a hand pump, a root cellar with canned goods from what must have been 3 years of gardening, a generator with a half tank of diesel, and the wood stove that heated the main floor. It was not defensible, but it was livable. I moved the car behind the barn, out of sight from the road. Dana and I walked the fence line while Mrs. Kimball and Dorothy managed the children inside. The fences were horse fencing 4-rail wood, not designed to stop anything that could climb. But the cedar forest was thick enough that approach from those directions would be slow and loud. "The road's the vulnerability," Dana said. "I know. We could block it. Fallen tree, Dorothy's tractor. If Holt comes with the kids, he needs the road clear." Dana stopped walking, looked at me. "Do you think he's coming?" I'd been thinking about it since we left the fire station. 14 children, a fire truck, Franklin Road blocked, 30 infected standing in an intersection. The math was wrong. Too many kids, too few adults, too much road between here and there. "I don't know," I said. "And if he doesn't? Then he doesn't. 14 kids, Ethan." I turned to face her. The morning sun was behind her, making her a silhouette. "I know how many. I counted them. I left them there. I made a choice. I'm not blaming you. Yes, you are. And you should. I should. But I made the choice, and I'd make it again." We stood there in the cold morning on someone else's land with the world ending 20 miles north. And I told the truth. I would choose my children over anyone else's children every single time. And that made me something less than good, and I could live with it because they were alive on that kitchen floor, eating eggs. Dana said, "My niece was in Memphis. She's 3. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I'm not judging you," she said. "I'm telling you that I understand exactly what you chose because I didn't get the chance to choose it." We walked back to the house in silence. At 2 p.m., we heard the engine. Diesel. Big. Coming up the gravel road. I grabbed Dorothy's rifle. She'd shown me where the ammunition was, had watched me check the chamber with the clumsy confidence of a man who'd been to a range exactly twice, and I went to the porch. The fire truck came around the bend in the driveway like a red hallucination. Holt was driving. Beside him in the cab, pressed together, were children. In the open back, wrapped in fire blankets, more children. I counted as they spilled out onto Dorothy's lawn. 14, all 14. Plus Priya. Holding Deb's hand, looking up at me with an expression that said, "I told you we'd be fine, plus 2 adults." I didn't recognize a young man with a bandage on his forearm and an older woman with a toddler on her hip. 18 people added to our 5. 23 total on a farm that had been sustaining one. Holt walked up to the porch. He was bleeding from a cut above his eye, and his uniform was torn at the shoulder, and he looked like he'd aged a decade in 6 hours. "Franklin Road was a nightmare," he said. "Lost one of my guys, Martinez. He got out to clear a car and—" He stopped, looked at the children filing into the house, Dorothy already directing them like a teacher at recess, Mrs. Kimball counting heads. "But we made it." "You made it," I said. "That's your promise to your girl?" "Yeah." He nodded. Slow, heavy, final. "I need to sleep. 4 hours. Then I'll help with whatever needs doing." I watched him walk inside. I counted the children again. 16 children, not including my own. 16 children who were now here because I'd given Holt an address. 16 mouths that would eat Dorothy's canned goods and drink her well water and fill her 40 acres with need. Sophie appeared at my elbow. She'd been watching from inside. "Daddy, that's a lot of kids." "Yeah, baby." "Are they staying?" "Yes." "Are their parents coming?" I knelt, eye level. This was the moment, the one I'd been avoiding since Westbrook Drive. "Some of them might, but some of them, their parents are gone, like Mom." Sophie's eyes filled, not with surprise, with confirmation of what she already knew. "So we take care of them," she said. "We help, yes. Like Mrs. Kimball takes care of us at school? Something like that." She nodded, small, serious. Then she went back inside, and 30 seconds later, I heard her voice, clear and calm, saying, "Hey, I'm Sophie. What's your name? Do you want to see the chickens?" The first week was math in motion. 23 people. Dorothy's root cellar held approximately 6 weeks of food for one person. That was less than 2 days for us at full rations. We cut portions immediately, 1 meal a day for adults, 2 for children, larger portions for the smallest ones. The chicken coop held 8 hens, producing maybe 5 eggs daily. We divided those among the children under 7. Water was manageable, the hand pump worked regardless of power. The well was deep, and Dorothy had a filtration system she'd installed years ago. Shelter was the next problem. The farmhouse had 4 bedrooms. We put children 4 to a room on pallets made from couch cushions and folded blankets. Adults rotated, sleeping on the floor of the main room in 4-hour shifts, because someone had to be on watch at all times, because they came. Not in hordes, not in waves, but ones and twos, walking up the road or emerging from the cedar forest, following God knows what signal. Sound, maybe. Smell. The smoke from the wood stove. The first one arrived on day 3. A man in a mechanic's uniform, walking up the driveway at noon, mouth open, arms hanging. I was on the porch with Dorothy's rifle. I'd never shot a living thing before that moment. I won't describe it except to say that my hands shook so badly afterward that Dana had to take the rifle from me, and I sat on the porch steps with my head between my knees for 5 minutes while Sophie watched from the window. By the end of the first week, we'd had 7. Each one I processed a little more mechanically, a little less humanly. That efficiency terrified me more than the dead. Holt took over security planning. Dana, it turned out, had a background in logistics, something to do with her job before. Supply chain management for a hospital system. She inventoried everything, built a rationing schedule, identified what we could forage from nearby properties. Mrs. Kimball and Dorothy organized the children into something resembling a school schedule. Because 16 children without structure become 16 children in chaos, and chaos draws attention. I did what I could, which wasn't much. I wasn't strong, I wasn't tactical, I wasn't a leader, but I could swing a hammer, and we needed fences repaired. I could haul water, and we needed buckets filled. I could sit on a porch at 3 a.m. with a rifle across my knees and watch the tree line. And someone had to do that, so I did. What I actually did, my real job, the one nobody assigned me, was Dad. Not just to Sophie and Connor, to all of them. Not because I was good at it, because most of them had no one else to ask the questions they needed to ask. Where are my parents? I don't know. We'll keep looking when it's safe. Are the sick people going to come here? We're being careful. We're watching. When can I go home? Not yet. But this place is good. Will you be here tomorrow? Yes. That last question, that one broke me every time, because they were asking if I would die or disappear like every other adult in their lives had. And I said yes, every time. Every single time. I promised. I promised 18 children I would be there tomorrow, knowing full well that any dawn could bring something up that driveway that I couldn't handle with a rifle and shaking hands. But I said yes, because my father called me at 2 a.m. and told me not to go. And I went. And that impulse, that stupid, irrational, legally questionable impulse to go get my kids, was the only thing I was any good at. Going toward children, being there in the morning. Some promises you make because they might not be true. You make them because the making is the point. It's been 41 days. We lost 3 hens to a fox and gained 6 people, adults this time, who showed up starving and sane and willing to work. Holt found a National Guard broadcast saying there are safe zones in Chattanooga, but we haven't gone. The road is too long, and we have too many small legs that can't run. Sophie reads to the younger ones every afternoon from Mrs. Kimball's collection of chapter books. Connor speaks again, not much. Not about before, but he speaks. Yesterday, he laughed at something Dev said, and it was the most violent thing I've ever felt. Joy like a wound reopening. I'm not a capable man. I'm not a prepper or an engineer or a soldier. I'm a divorced father who got lucky at a church bench and who now has 18 reasons to be alive at first light. Some mornings I sit on the porch before the kids wake up and I think about my father's voice on the phone. Don't pick up the kids. He was trying to save me. He was wrong. Going to get them was the only right thing I've done in years. I still don't know if he's alive. I still don't know a lot of things. But the eggs need collecting, and the water needs hauling, and someone is going to ask me, before the hour is out, if I'll be here tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes.